I speak to you in the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. Peace be with you. It's so important that Jesus says it twice in today's gospel. Now, of course, we say, peace be with you, all the time in our liturgy. So much so that we almost take this greeting of peace for granted. And yet when we reflect on what the gift of Jesus' peace means for his disciples today, Jesus' peace is something that we really ought never to take for granted, especially if we ourselves have experienced it. At the start of today's gospel, the disciples are in the deep grip of fear. So much fear, it's literally paralyzing. They've locked themselves in the house. They are so afraid. And bear in mind, this is after Mary Magdalene has already shared with them that she has seen the risen Lord. It doesn't seem as though the incredible news of the resurrection has lessened their fear. If anything, maybe it's made it worse. The disciples are literally trapped, locked away from the world. They are deep in the grip. Have you ever felt that way? Stuck in the grip of fear and anxiety? Maybe you literally fear for your life like the disciples do, or maybe you fear for the future, for your family, for the church, or the world. I have to say, looking around at the news of the world, there's not a lot out there that would suggest that I shouldn't be afraid, or that I don't need to be afraid. Actually, quite the opposite. So yes, I totally resonate with the disciples, locked in that room in fear. Because I feel like that sometimes, like I'm stuck in a spiral of anxiety, trapped in my own worry. And maybe we don't literally lock ourselves in the house in fear, although we did indeed do that at the height of the pandemic. But maybe we lock ourselves into a mindset, a way of thinking, like we only hear what we want to hear, or we presume or assume the brokenness of the world rather than wholeness. Or we can't imagine, see, or perceive what a different way would even look like. What does it even feel like to feel safe and at peace? Maybe we can't even remember, or we've never even known what that's like. Let me tell you, if you've ever experienced it, I'm sure you'd agree. When the grip of fear is finally loosened, it is a profound relief, like a burden has been lifted. It's like you can finally breathe again, or it's like feeling the warmth of the sun on your face after a long time sitting in darkness. And you can be really present in the moment when you don't have to worry about the next minute, day, hour. That's what it feels like to simply be at peace. It's amazing. The greatest gift for those who have been living in fear. And it is a gift that is offered to all of us. This is the gift that Jesus gives his disciples today. When Jesus says to his disciples in that locked room, peace be with you, he really means it. Shalom. When Jesus says, peace be with you, it's not just a greeting like a friendly hello, although in ancient times sometimes shalom was used that way. But Jesus is actually bringing peace, real peace. And Jesus literally has to cut through the disciples' fear. He has to get them out of the grip of it in order for them to truly see and know the resurrected Christ. And so Jesus shows up and speaks directly to their fear, bringing his peace. And only then can the disciples truly bear witness to the resurrection and receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. I can't overstate enough how much receiving God's peace that is offered to us matters in our perception of what God is doing in our lives and in the world. Because I don't know about you, but I tend to get really rigid when I am afraid. And sometimes I can even stick with a mindset that is not bringing peace because it's more comforting for the present to be certain and stuck than for the future to be unknown and yet full of possibility. Deeply faithful Christian people can get stuck in certainties of belief that trap them in fear of judgment and shame and don't actually bring them peace. So do entire families, churches, and systems of government. Which is why I don't blame Thomas for seeking proof for his belief. Sometimes I feel like we do that all the time when we're afraid. Like I'm so doubtful or it's so difficult to trust that I have to rely on either black and white certitude or scientific proof or my own rational conclusions in order to believe that God's promises are actually real. When instead, we are invited to believe that the promises are real because of our real experience of God in our midst. But we have to let go of our fear, even for a moment, in order to see how God is present with us. Because God is always present with us, but rarely in ways that we expect or can always comprehend rationally. And we need look no further than today's gospel reading to see that this is so. Jesus appearing in a locked room, calming his disciples down, giving them a physical experience of the resurrection and breathing the Spirit into them. Each one of those things are more incredible than the last, and all of them are completely unexpected. None of them fall within the bounds of rationality or certitude. And Jesus does this not once, but twice. Jesus does this for the first batch of disciples and then does it again for Thomas, who wasn't there the first time. God always shows up for us, more than once, as often as we need God to, but never in ways that are predictable or ordinary. And sometimes we can't see what God is doing when we're stuck in the rigidity of fear and the trap of our own certainty. God shows up for us again and again and again, for all of us who come to believe. None of us here today were in that locked room. We are separated by the generations, by geography, by the ages, by cultural, linguistic, and even ethnic differences, and yet we too are disciples of Jesus Christ. We too believe. We too have seen and known Jesus in our lives and in our community of faith. We too have received the gift of the Holy Spirit. We can see and feel the presence of God in this place and in our lives. We are no different than Thomas, than any of those who were in the locked room. Jesus' words to Thomas in today's gospel, they are also words to us, Jesus' disciples, generations later. Peace be with you. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have come to believe. That's us. Knowing this, it actually changes the nature of faith, doesn't it? Faith goes beyond facts, even beyond proximity, even beyond space and time. Faith in the peace of Jesus is not black and white. Instead, it flows from experience rather than prescribed rules or rational proof. Faith does not adhere to any of the usual parameters we tend to want to put on things because it doesn't need to, and we don't need to, in order to have faith. But we do need to let go of our fear, our desire for certainty, and receive the peace of Jesus that is offered to us. Maybe this Easter season, if only for a moment, you can take a deep breath. Maybe turn off the television or take a break from social media. Maybe take a walk. Give someone you love a hug. Say a prayer. Simply be quiet for a short while. Whatever gives you a moment's respite and a sense of peace. And even if you experience a sense of peace only for a moment, that is God cutting through your fear. And you will have received the gift of Christ. All you need to know that God's promises to us are real. And you will have borne witness to the shalom of Jesus.